By his late teens, he had already released several albums, and at 20, he landed the biggest gig of all, lead guitarist for the popular David Lee Roth band. But just a week later, it all came crashing down.
That was hell because of what I thought he was going to lose. And it seemed just very unfair and cruel. And it just ripped our hearts out.
Jason was diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease, a paralyzing neurological disorder.
But I'm sure any parent might be able to look at their child and try to visualize it. But I think that's the worst thing that can happen to a parent, is something happening to their child.
Even though his fingers were slowing down, he finished an album that later went gold. Doctors gave him only 3 years to live. A decade later, Jason is still going strong.
I've read his fan mail over the years, and he's an inspiration to a lot of people, including a lot of people that have said, you know, gee, I felt like committing suicide, but when I read about you, I'm going back and living my life.
Jason requires around-the-clock care from his loving family and friends. He communicates with his eyes.
It's basically a grid system that just puts the letters of the alphabet in a certain place in space that we have memorized. So each letter has 2 eye movements that Jason gives me, and I call off the letters and then the words when I understand what I think he's saying.
Learning the system was easy. Jason says accepting it was the hard part.
Do S-T-O, stop. Stop you using voice. Yeah, it was very easy for him once he stopped fighting it because he didn't want to stop using his voice.
With the help of a computer and those passionate eyes, Jason is composing once again. He's already composed a music video, and Raspberry Jams, a CD full of his old music, was just released. His music struck a chord with the acclaimed Diablo Ballet, and tonight they're performing one of his songs. Lauren Jonas, the company's artistic director, is a big fan.
He is an extraordinary human being, and he's always inspired me, even when I knew him before he really got sick. Just his music was it's just phenomenal, and what he's done with his life and how he proceeds and his positive demeanor and the beauty and the artistry that is inside of him and that we all get to share is just extraordinary.
Jason's mind is still filled with music, and it's up to those passionate eyes to share it with the world. Jason's new CD, Raspberry Jams, is in music stores all around the country. It's totally inspiring music, and you'll hear so many different styles of music, not to mention a ton of Jason's spirit.
But it's been 3 years since we first told you about Jason Becker.
Jason is a gifted musician who must struggle just to stay alive. But years after doctors had given up on him, Jason, who is now 30 years old, is doing much more than simply living.
You know, in fact, in many ways, despite the obstacles, he is thriving. Let's bring you up to date.
Becker is a man at peace. Yes, disease has ravaged his body, but his mind is sharp and full of music he wants the world to hear. This remarkable man can no longer move or even speak, but he can still touch those around him with his eyes. Jason's story begins when he was 17 years old and cut his first record deal. In a matter of months, Jason became one of the most critically acclaimed rock guitarists in the world. This home video shows his trademark, playing guitar with one hand, yo-yoing with the other.
He was able to do things technically that no one's ever been able to do. Every great guitar player that's seen Jason just, you know, he's awe-inspiring.
In 1990, Jason was lead guitarist for David Lee Roth and helped write his gold record, A Little Ain't Enough. That same year, though, when Jason was just 19, he was diagnosed with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. It is a neuromuscular condition that would slowly take away Jason's ability to control his body.
The first couple of years was just, you know, it was just unbelievable. Hell, you couldn't even hardly function, but you had to, because Jason was, he didn't care. He was busy with his career.
When Jason could no longer play guitar, he began composing on a keyboard, first with 2 hands, then with only 1. And when his hands no longer moved, Jason turned to a computer. His friend and music producer Mike Beamersdorfer adapted a program so that Jason could compose.